Good evening, folks. Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's full-time reaction to Celtic 0, Hearts 2 at Celtic Park. I've got Kenny and Callum here with me to try and pick the bones out of that. Kenny, this is unravelling pretty quickly. Back-to-back league defeats. That looked like a performance devoid of ideas. We lose 2 goals in the first half, and you think there's going to be an onslaught at some period in the second half, but we couldn't even muster that. And I mean, we've brought 5 subs on, and we're turning to players who we know already aren't good enough, and we were so lacklustre across the full 90 minutes. Just
a gutless, uninventive, disorganised shambles. I've no idea what we're doing offensively. We know we're going to play against a low block almost every time we come here. We're just playing this passive, possession-based, horseshoe-shaped rubbish that's so easy to defend against. The last couple of seasons with people, we can break down low blocks because we can get to the byline, we can play balls in behind the fullbacks. We've got people that can break the lines. We have no identity. We've got no system or approach to breaking down sides. Palmer's the only guy who you think's got a little bit of a spark. You see him looking up to deliver the ball into the box, and he's got Mikey Johnson and Kyogo standing there motionless. That it's so simple to defend against. The only thing that's worse than our forward play is our defensive play. You can accept a pub goal from a corner once a season because there's human beings and it can happen. It's happening every week. That first goal, a flat ball into the box can be difficult for a goalkeeper to come back for, even if it's in his 6-yard box. The thing's hung up in the air, and he's rolled it in. He's knocked it in from 4 yards out. Why has Joe Hart not even attempted to come and collect it? He's then punching balls that an amateur would be looking to catch. His mind has gone. We're a riot all over the park at the moment. Brendan Rodgers, this spell of him having a little bit of grace because he's not been backed is over. Bringing on Bernabe and taking Palm off when you need 3 goals, it defies logic. You need your head read. I don't know what he's doing, honestly. I don't know what Brendan Rodgers' ideas are. I don't know what his system is. And the board have taken a liberty. They've taken a liberty in the summer. They've taken a treble wing in the squad with £72 million of cash in the bank and thought, we'll just need to sign a few projects, we'll roll up and win another treble. None of us thought that. Yeah. We knew we needed more power in midfield. We knew we needed a new goalkeeper. We knew we needed a third striker. We needed 4 or 5 players to affect the starting 11. When you buy when you're strong, it's obvious. And we've been really complacent, and we're now sleepwalking into the loss of everything. Yeah. You can't logically look at that and think they're a league winning side. They're not. I'm pretty shocked by it. And I don't know how we fix it. We're going to need to get pretty lucky in January in a difficult market, and we're going to need to let our supporters back in, and we're going to need to hope that our opponents don't carry on building momentum because it's really precarious.
Callum, I think people often, outsiders will look at Celtic and say that when things start going wrong, that immediately people start criticising the board. That's always the thing that's levelled at, is that the minute we stop winning, people are chanting sack the board, which happened this afternoon. But if you look, when you're an outsider and you're not a supporter, you don't really understand the liberty, as Kenny says, that the board have taken. I think when the board are ambitionless, there's an absolute absence of progression, trying to get better, trying to invest in better players, and you try and get by doing as little as you can to maintain domestic dominance. It eventually comes back to bite you even domestically. And you see it today on the pitch. We've brought on Ralston and Maeda at half-time. Maeda you can maybe give a pass to because he's been out for 5 or 6 weeks. And Ralston are not really good enough. We bring Forrest on, who's not good enough anymore. We bring Bernabe on, who everybody knows isn't good enough. We know the goalkeeper's not good enough. How can we as fans see this unravelling? And don't get me wrong, the manager has a hell of a lot of responsibility to take for this because, as Kenny says, the system looks miles off it. We're playing far too slowly and we're devoid of any ideas to change it. But everybody has to take the flak here. There's always a scattergun when we get beat, but everybody has to take responsibility. The players, because they're miles off at the manager, because he's responsible for this. But the board, again, for handing away a position of strength like they always do.
It's what they love. The board do like to do that. They like that kind of, how could I put it, the cat and mouse. That's how they kind of see it, as they can get away with it. And I try to keep it interesting, trying to keep the Sky interested. I don't know, shambles. And thank God people have started to turn and shout, sack the board. The board have had an easy ride because Rangers have been woeful year upon year upon year. Rangers have not been a great side in the Scottish League of 5 trebles that we won, how good were Rangers throughout those 5 trebles? They weren't a great side, so that maybe masks it a little bit. Like Rodgers, for me, this isn't me overreacting. I wasn't one that was behind Rodgers when he first came in the sense of he wasn't my first choice. As soon as he came in, you would back him. Naturally, you'll back anybody. But look, you don't go back with your ex, and that's kind of what Celtic are doing, and it's really unravelling
that's all
quickly.
Celtic ever do.
Exactly, it's Gordon Strachan, it's Neil Lennon twice. Soon he might be back another time in the shower, you just don't know. Rodgers twice. The only time that we went somewhere, apart from Ronnie Dyler, but that was a weird time of the year or season because Rangers went in the league, obviously, so you get a bit of a buy in that. But as soon as we go a little bit further out and not a pal act, we get Ange Postecoglou. Look what happens. Somebody that comes in, takes no bullshit, gets his players in that he wants, and improves the team, improves the squad, plays good football. Rodgers has dismantled a treble-winning side quicker than I thought he could, actually, and that's quite a bit of a shock. Look, across the road, Rangers went and got another manager. Rangers pushed the panic button and sacked Michael Beale. They sacked him because he wasn't getting results. I don't think Rodgers is that far away from that, but I don't think the board have a backbone to do that. They'll double down. That's what they do. And they rely on Celtic, on individuals to get them out of an issue. Look, today on the pitch, all these players, I mean, Palmer coming off for Bernabé's is on Rodgers. That's not on anybody else. See if you don't have the quality there, just don't make subs. Because then that almost looks going, look, Rodgers is telling us something. He's telling us that he can't put on subs. He doesn't trust who's on the bench. By throwing Bernabé on, it is a horrendous decision for Rodgers to do that because he was terrible, absolutely terrible.
The only thing I will say there is Palmer was abysmal.
Mate, he was terrible. He was doing little pirouettes thinking that he was in some like panto.
Plays far
He
too
was
slowly.
awful. He was trying to, and that's the reality. We've let Jota go, but we've got 25 million, so shut up, Celtic fans. Sit down and take your medicine. That's what the board say. That's what they tell us. We'll get you who we get you, and that's it. There's better players in this league than what we signed. Fact, Starfelt is a massive one that we've missed. Again, Liam Scales, he just gets bullied. And I mean, at the back post for the first goal that Shankland
top goal
scores.
scorer unmarked at the back post.
Mate, how criminal. The captain of Hearts, he's the top goal scorer of Hearts, and he just wanders and plonks about. He's got a bit of a belly on him, I know he can't run, but he just gets away. He just sits bang easily because Joe Hart can't command his box. It's the first time I've ever seen a player get tortured like Joe Hart did when he actually caught the ball, and everybody was kind of just merely joking, like, "Hey, he finally caught it." Kenny speaks that his head's gone. His head went a wee while ago for me. He's not a good enough keeper. We need to get these retired English players out of the club. It's not a holiday vacation up here. When you come from England at the top level and you come to us, we need players that can improve Celtic. Joe Hart done that in the first season, and after that it's been a decline. There's so many issues. McGregor looks way off it and all. He's just, his first touch, his pass, how many times does it go from right back to centre back to Scales into left back? They run so far, they come back the way, and it's just that I feel like it's almost like we're watching Michael Beale's football. That's what you heard, like that kind of like U-shape, that horse-shape football. Rodgers has got a bit to blame because the football I'm seeing, well, sorry, there is no football. What am I seeing? I'm paying good money, so are you, so is everybody else. And what type of football are we getting back for that? That's on Rodgers, regardless if the quality's not good enough. Our quality that isn't good enough, still good enough to beat the likes of Hearts, the likes of St Johnstone, the likes of Motherwell at Celtic Park. Do not tell me that we've not got enough quality, because that's a cop-out answer when it's home games. Maybe Kilmarnock away when it's a horrible pitch and the weather's horrible, I don't care. But at home, it's a cop-out answer, and that's on Rodgers for me today. He has got to be tactically much better. Hearts are a woeful side this year under Naismith, a rookie who doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, Hearts are off the back of 2 defeats. They had back-to-back defeats themselves coming into this game, Kenny, and the thing you mentioned earlier that is really glaring to me is we seem so weak and vulnerable as a team, but at the back particularly. We've talked a lot about the first goal we lose for the corner, we lose a free kick on the edge of the box. Stephen Kingsley standing over it, you think there's a chance that's a goal, by the way, and as soon as it goes over the wall, it's in. And all of a sudden, Hearts didn't really have too many chances in that first half, and they went in 2-0 up. Everything at the back seems chaotic. It doesn't seem organised. We don't seem strong. Carter Vickers back in today, who you think brings a Cameron influence, but that team, Callum's talked about McGregor there, I think across the team, nobody's playing well because it's a team so devoid of confidence and belief in what they're doing.
I thought after they let in that ridiculous goal against St Johnstone, Rodgers came out and said, "Oh, we're too soft." Do you think they would just say, "Well, let's get back to basics"? We're not asking them to play like Baresi back there. Just defend basically from corners. Even the fullbacks, what are they doing going forward? We used to get over. Celtic's been built on getting overload from your fullbacks. They're not going forward at all in any capacity, and that's not helping us break teams down. it's hard, Paul, to pick out one or two issues that we can try and solve to get ourselves back on track, because it seems to be an endemic thing throughout the entire squad. Kyogo, who scored 30 goals, red hot striker, now is bereft of any sort of confidence. His movement seems to have gone. He can't finish. Callum McGregor, the most reliable player we've had in the last 10 years at the club, just looks like a shadow of himself, and all of that tells you that it's not just about the system, it's a malaise in the dressing room, and once that happens it can be quite poisonous and it can be hard to actually reverse that. Yeah. And it's starting to set in. What can reverse it is a freshness. If you bring new players into the dressing room and people feel that their positions are under threat, they just feel that there's something's a bit more alive again. We're probably going to need to sign more than a couple of players in January to try and recover this. But it's a dicey market and it's a dicey game to throw £20 million in a panic rather than in a controlled way improve
like they should have done in the summer.
That they should have done in the summer.
Don't forget, it's a dicey way to throw it with Rodgers at the helm of that, because Rodgers' transfer record at every club is rotten. He finds one or two, but you think of Kundai Benyu.
But the responsibility for signings is
falls
not
down to
with
the whole
Rodgers.
Club, I get that, but Rodgers has spoken about, I want 4 quality players. So are the board going to say, okay, what 4 quality players do you see? What's in our market? This is the top tier of what we can get, of money spent out the way. What can you see for that? Can you trust Rodgers to get that? Because I know a lot. How much did we spend on Abu Kouassi?
Can you trust the club to get it?
£3.5 million?
The difference between Rodgers now, being here now, and being here the first time is that when he walked in the door, he said the recruitment setup was much better now, and Mark Lawwell's in charge, and I'll coach the players that I'm given. So
does he retract that?
The responsibility is going to be with Mark Lawwell and the recruitment team to bring the and they've had the chance in the summer. Why will they do anything different?
If you look at the list of signings since Mark Lawwell's been in charge, it's abhorrent.
Dreadful.
It's absolutely appalling. If you look at the signings that preceded that before he came, we had a great hit rate, but what that appears to have been is just Postecoglou using the Asian market and using a bit of his influence. I thought there was more to it than that. It appears there wasn't. It looks like bringing Peter Law and his son back it's just taking us into a position that's so regressive. It's so obvious.
I mean, it's now got to the verge where it is a bit toxic, because that's the first time I've seen fights happen up in the main stand where people are actually trying to get towards the board because they've just had enough. And look, a Celtic win, like on Wednesday when we won, somebody says that I was miserable because I was criticising the team. I've got a right to be miserable because that's what I've seen. And Feyenoord should have beat Celtic during Wednesday. They should have all the chances that they had. Celtic rode their luck and got away with it because a team came here that didn't have to play that well because they knew they were through. And this is what it is. That you would think that they would push on and kind of get on, right, first win in 10 years, let's go. And they started the game very slowly, very poorly. There's just, Kenny says about it, there's no confidence in that team. They can't. It's not like you go, right, they're creating. We cannot go through the middle of teams. There's nobody. There's not a Tom Rogic, not a David Turnbull anymore. There's nobody that can take the ball in the half turn and create and drive. It's always out wide. Can we launch a ball in? And the crosses are woeful. Corners. What is that corner about? I giving it to McGregor all the time, and then just either overhitting it or hitting the first guy.
We had so many corners today, and nothing came
When
of
did
any
we
of
ever
them.
score for set pieces? Are just a joke.
Aye.
Another thing you can practice in training.
At both
your
ends.
offensive set pieces.
Both ends.
I mean, it's just our output that's from set pieces in any capacity is pathetic.
And the biggest glaring issue for me again is the Green Brigade and not being here. Whatever your views on it, I don't care. But not having them in the ground makes a massive difference to the atmosphere in here. Now, teams don't need to do much to beat us anymore because we're already beating ourselves from within. The board are causing this. Do you honestly need, what's that been, 8-9 weeks to outcome going, okay, should I ban him, should I not? Like, it's 200 people. They need to get down to it, check the cameras, who is breaking into what stadium, kicking what doors, and you get them out of the club, and then you let the rest of the group come in. You can't tarnish the whole group because 5 or 10 people have kicked a door. And how does that take 9 weeks? That shows you the type of board that we've got. They're lazy. They're lazy in moving the club forward. They're lazy in Europe. They're lazy in signings. They're lazy in the windows. And they're lazy dealing with fans. Why not just say, look, we'll deal with that when it gets to the winter break. We'll deal with that. We'll get our CCTV and we'll look at them and we'll move on. But no, we just want to explode from within. And we love to seem to do that.
Kenny, the difficulty is we're losing points left, right and centre to just about any team in the league, and you don't have confidence. We're playing Livingston here next Saturday. You wouldn't bet anything on us picking up 3 points. That could be a drab 0-0 given the way we're playing, and you just don't see how between now and January, we're talking about trying to rectify this to some level in January, but between now and January we said we had a slightly easier run of fixtures and we've got back-to-back league defeats. The reality is that this is incredibly damaging in terms of the season.
It's not just these types of games that we're dropping, but it's different. It's in different environments. Well, in Europe, where psychology is not getting us through. Away at Kilmarnock, where it's not a low block, it's a kamikaze game where you can get forward as often as you like. We're just out-muscled and out-bullied. Today, where teams just sit in, we've got no invention, we're not going to break them down. So it doesn't matter what style of match we're going into, we're not finding any answers. In that type of game, which is what we'll face against Livingston, you've got to attack as a team. You cannot. Postecoglou's team didn't win it on an individual, they won it because of the system. They won it because the fullbacks were coming inside, we had loads of overload and we played with in a way that would break teams down. If we get a goal there today, it'd have been a deflection or a long range shot or a moment of magic from one player. There's no fluency or system, and that for me is the most worrying thing. I have no idea what his strategy is. I'd love to hear him try and describe it, because it doesn't exist, and it's costing us. What, he dropped 8 points in his first season at Celtic. His entire first season he's dropped 6 in a week.
It's been 10 in the last 3.5 weeks.
So you don't need to be a mathematician to work out that we're spiralling into a problem. Look, you probably say he should be sacked in the morning. I would stop short of that, but he's losing a lot of his goodwill pretty quickly, and if it's not sorted out by January and we're 5-6 points behind the league, you're probably going to have to looking at the manager in a really serious way.
Aye, there you go. That's it for full-time reaction. Like this video, comment with your own thoughts on the game below. We'll see you next week for the build-up to that game against Livingston. Thank you.